Hello, it's Dawn Michelle and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about all the things that I got up to in September of 2023 in my tarot practice. We're going to touch real quickly on books, then we're going to dive right into the decks and take a look at my tarot journals. There will be timestamps in the description box below if you want to jump around. So let's go ahead and just start off with books really quickly because I really just have like one to mention. And you'll have to excuse me, so I've been like sick actually through most of September, so I'm still recovering. My energy level is really low. I have a headache, but I'm doing this anyway because I really love making these videos as a way to share what I have been working with, because they're kind of like reviews, right? These are things that I'm actually have been working with all month long. We're gonna go ahead and do it today, even though like I'm still not 100%, but I'm on the mend. Anyway, so real quick, let's talk about books. Last month I had mentioned annotating books, and if you missed that monthly wrap up, I showed like my little annotation kit for my fiction, which is fun. I'm still reading and annotating Six of Crows. I'm also still reading the Sarah J. Maas series, which, oh, the name always escapes me. It's like A Court of Mist and Ruin, I think, or something like that. I'll put a picture or something up. And so I'm still reading that fiction, still reading and annotating Six of Crows because I'm doing a deep read on that. And then I've also started reading and annotating Haggitude, which is a Sharon Blackie book, and it is reimagining the second half of life. I'm not going to go too far into this because, like, as you can tell by my tabs, I'm not that far into the book yet. So here's where I currently am. And this is just the little annotation kit that I have for this particular book, which is just one of these little plastic ruler thingies that all these tabs come on. I have my tabs again by color. They always match the book cover because I just think that's fun. I have post-it notes for additional notes, and I'm just using this as a bookmark slash sticky holder, and that just notes where I am in the book. And I've just got my one, I'm using a brush pen this time for a highlighter because it's really soft. The color is really pretty. And as you can see, like it matches the book really well, but it stands out quite well against this color paper. All my tabs have, you know, a significant meaning to various different things in the book. And then I've just got one of my many Pure Malt pens. So that's something that I've been doing every morning. I've been doing throughout September, most of September. I've been doing kind of what I've been calling like a digital detox morning, where I try to avoid getting on anything digital for the first hour of the morning. I've been getting my coffee and I've been sitting down with this book and really slow, deep reading and annotating, obviously, along the way. And I've been going back and forth between this and sometimes like I'll read Six of Crows, sometimes I'll read fiction, but basically just the idea of starting my morning with anything other than technology. So I'm not on YouTube, I'm not on Instagram, I stay off Facebook. For the first hour of my day, I basically put my phone away. That's what I've been doing every single morning. I've also been pulling cards during this time, and the decks I choose are really not like, there's nothing real significant or meaningful about them. It's just whatever I feel called to use, but I will share with you the deck that I've used quite a bit this month for that practice. So that's just the one book that I wanted to mention. I think I have all of Sharon Blackie's books. I think I've read them all. This is her newest, and I do really love her viewpoint and her take on things. It really does resonate with my own, so I'm enjoying that quite a bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and just jump into the decks because I don't want to like wear myself out before we even get into all the really good stuff. We're gonna start with my monthly medicine decks, and I'll give you a flip through of my journal at the end. Again, there'll be timestamps, but for this month in my membership, we were working with the idea of blank spaces. So we had the blank slate, the blank page, the blank canvas, and the blank screen. Each week had kind of a theme. Some weeks we let things go and we worked with temporary messages. Some weeks we worked with messages that build upon each other to create a narrative or to create a picture. And so it was really fun. It was kind of like a clean slate type of an energy. I just really felt like I was in need of that for this month. It's weird because like fall is not like a busy season in terms of like external busy for me. It's a very internally busy season, as in that's when I tend to get like really deep into very specific practices. And so I love this sort of like blank slate energy to kind of just like take a breather, clear the slate, make some space to really, step away from all the energy of summer, which is, as I've mentioned before, very overwhelming for me. I'm definitely not a summer person, more of a fall person, fall and winter. And so kind of having this like transitional period, using the blank space or blank spaces as the metaphor for that practice. So I'm going to show you the decks that I worked with each week for that practice. So our first week was blank slate, and this was really about just taking in messages in the moment and kind of learning to work with things in that time and space, and then letting them go afterwards. So in this particular practice for this week, the 3 decks I worked with were the Wild Unknown Alchemy, the Bianco Nero Tarot, and the Local Honey Picture Box. I want to talk about the Wild Unknown Alchemy just really quickly. I know I've mentioned it many times on my channel. This is a deck that I actually find myself using all the time. The cards frustrate me. I've mentioned that before. The shape frustrates me. It's really difficult to actually work with in terms of like shuffling and all of that, but I really love the artwork. I really love the messages that come through, and this is a deck that I've worked with pretty deeply for a variety of different practices, particularly with my writing work, my fiction writing work. So this deck has been kind of fundamental for that, and so I've been incorporating it into other areas as well. So in September, for that first week, I used this as my daily card draw, Monday through Friday. So part of the practice was to pull a daily card. For each week we did this practice, and each daily card pull for that week had a sort of a theme or an idea. And for blank slate, what we were doing was working with the idea of impermanence. So we were to pull cards and then to sit with those messages throughout the day, and then to let them go, leave them be, and then move on to the next message. So we weren't building any kind of a story or narrative. We were just working with the idea of impermanence, and that was kind of the key theme throughout the whole week. And so I used this deck for that because I felt like it worked really well just with the energy I was trying to cultivate. And again, it's a deck that I've used quite often for many of the practices that I've been doing. I do not love shuffling this deck. I do not love physically working with it, but I love the messages and I love the artwork. So it's one of those decks that I make an exception for. So the decks that I worked with for my readings throughout the first week were the Bianco Nero Tarot. And you'll notice a pretty succinct theme throughout the month. I really stuck to a lot of black and white decks, and then a lot of times added in just a pop of color. So I really tried to kind of keep with that idea of black and white and just adding in intentional color into a reading. So this is very much a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. I have seen this deck around for years. I think it's not new. It's not like the latest greatest thing. And it is very much a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, but there's something about it. I love the black and white nature. I love the illustrations. It's very detailed illustrations, which are really lovely. It's like it's a little bit on the sexy side, which is kind of funny because I was looking through my decks and I was like, I don't remember. I was probably talking to Marlena about it or something, but I was like, I don't really have a lot of decks that I feel like I would classify as that. And I was talking about getting this deck, and I know she has it. So she'd mentioned that, she kind of got that energy from it too. So I picked it up. Not only for that, but to also use for the September monthly medicine. So it's, just a readily available mass market deck. It was really affordable, and I really enjoyed working with it. It was very, very clean. It's a very solid reader. I really didn't struggle with the messages or anything, and it was a great one to use for that sort of blank slate energy. I'll show you them paired together here in a minute, but the oracle that I paired it with is the Local Honey Picture Box, and this is an indie deck, and like full disclosure, this deck was sent to me for review. I really adore this deck, and it was so funny because I do a video every month with my members called Coffee and Cards, where I gather up all the decks that I have gotten into my collection from one month to the next, and we do like just a massive unboxing and haul, and it's a lot of fun. But this deck, I throw decks that I get for review in that too, so my members always get to see what's in my collection as well as like what's come in for review first. And so I was looking through this deck with Coffee and Cards, and I was talking to my members about it, and I was like, it's so cool, but it doesn't really fit with that blank spaces energy because it is so colorful and there's so much richness in life going on, and I was looking for like that more stark energy, or at least I thought I was. And after, and I even said in that coffee and cards, like it's beautiful. I can't wait to work with it, but it'll probably be like, you know, maybe next month or something. I don't think I'm going to work with it this month for blank spaces. And then, of course, you know, the minute that comes out of your mouth, what's the next thing that happens? You grab this deck. And so that's what I did. And I did end up using it the first week. This is one of the decks that I've also used throughout the month for that mindful moment in the morning that I was talking about, that like digital detox morning that I've been doing. I pulled this deck a lot because I really love the messages. It's really got great, interesting key phrases on it. So here's like, don't try to convince people. How much do you trust yourself? Physical, mental, emotional, rebellion, and it says no gods, no masters. I love that. There's a black hole card, the welcome lounge, and the guidebook is really, really wonderful. So like this is a unique little oracle deck. I really have been enjoying working with it. Let me show you how they pair together. I love the idea of the really kind of like, I don't want to say simple because the artwork's actually quite detailed and intricate, but I love the idea of the black and white tarot with the really beautiful full color oracle. I feel like it just really draws the eye in, and it really in this case allows the tarot to support the oracle rather than the other way around. A lot of times I use oracle to support my tarot, but I love when the oracle really becomes the focal point like this, like in a very dynamic way, because it's very much visually the focal point. And the messages just go together really well. So here's airing your trauma versus healing your trauma. And we've got the 8 of Cups and the 7 of Wands here. So that's really interesting when we're looking at maybe this is airing our trauma and this is healing it. That's kind of cool. I really enjoyed the way these worked together. The messages were really fantastic. Like here's grief allowance with the Hermit and Temperance. I mean, it's so beautiful. I just think that they went together really well. I really have been enjoying the local honey picture box. Again, it was a deck sent to me for review, and I wasn't even aware of it until the creator reached out. So I'm so glad that they did, because it's a beautiful one. I have loved using it not only for my monthly medicine reading, but also, like I said, for that morning practice. This is such a perfect deck for that because the guidebook is really fantastic. Let me grab that just so we can take a quick peek too. So the guidebook is just a nice little black and white guidebook. We have numbers, which are fantastic. Everything's really easy to find, which I appreciate, especially after the frustration that I've had with the alchemy deck, where the guidebook is numbered numerically and the cards are numbered in Roman numerals, and it just makes it a pain to try and find anything. So here we have uncensor yourself, so 30. So we have a little message for each. So I'll just read you a little bit of it just so you can kind of get the feel for the energy of the guidebook. So it says, when we believe that it's not okay for us to think, feel, or want certain things, we often tend to suppress those things through internal censorship. This leads to living in a state of chronic inauthenticity. I mean, like I'm not gonna read a ton more, but this little guidebook is amazing. It's a really wonderful, very empowered, very self-aware messages, which I really appreciate. But like, look at this one with the emotional landfill between the 3 of Wands and the Star. I mean, that's just really cool. There's such unique things represented in this oracle. Reality check. Yep, absolutely love it. Like it's unique. I really enjoy it. The messages are great. The guidebook is fantastic, and the artwork is stunning. And I really have been enjoying it, pairing it with my black and white decks, as well as just working with it on its own, because like it's just beautiful this way. So we have Love Your Demons with the 10 of Pentacles and the King of Pentacles. That's interesting. All right, let's just do one more. Love is Alchemy, the 4 of Swords, and the 2 of Cups. I love that. That's amazing. All right, so our next week was the blank page, and this is where we were looking at working with the idea of narrative. So we were creating narrative-driven readings, and the decks I chose to use for this were the Wild Unknown Archetypes, the Poe Tarot, and this is the Mystic Misfits Oracle. Let's talk about the archetypes one first. Again, this is another deck that I have talked about before on my channel, so I won't go into too much detail with it. I really have been enjoying working with this one. I've been using it a lot again for writing. I've talked about that quite a bit with these Wild Unknown decks. For whatever reason, they just really tend to work for me for all of my writing work that I'm doing. But I used this one as my daily card pull. So this was the archetype that I was sitting with, and the idea for the daily card pull for this particular week was to layer them all up and to build a story over 5 days. So I had the story of the archetypal journey through my 5 cards, and we'll see which ones I got when we get into my journal. Although I didn't put any pictures this time, it's just all writing. But I really do enjoy this deck. I've had many different versions of this deck. I've trimmed it and done many different things. I really dislike round decks. It's just, I find them difficult to work with. Same with the alchemical deck. Like, I just find the shapes of these decks, like, I get it, it's a novelty. Maybe there's some significance to the shape itself, but like in practice, I find them really annoying to work with. But I do make an exception for these decks because I think they do actually work quite well, and I'm really enjoying them, working with them in those particular practices. But as you can see, like, they're every which way, and that just like annoys me to no end. I do not work with reversals, so I keep all of my decks upright, and having to do this turnaround thing all the time just annoys me. But again, it's a deck I make exception for. I should probably do a video on decks I actually make an exception for. I love the archetypes in it. Most of them I do know, or I have learned over my time working with this deck. Like this forest, isn't that beautiful? Reminds me of where I live. And same with the ocean. And like, I really love working with it. I forget what I was saying because, like I said, y'all, I'm recovering from being sick, so my apologies. But I didn't want to put this video off for too terribly long. Anyway, that's the Wild Unknown Alchemy. I'm sure y'all have seen it. I used it for my daily card pulls and other various readings throughout the month. That was a really great one. So the 2 decks that I worked with throughout the week for those readings and for lots of other various readings and things throughout the month was the Poe Tarot and the Mystic Misfits Oracle. I have shown both of these decks on my channel. The Poe Tarot is a mass market deck. It's going to get a haircut because the gilding annoys me and it's too big, but I adore this deck. I absolutely love the artwork. I love the interpretation of the tarot. I love the quotes on the cards. The guidebook kind of leaves a little bit to be desired in my opinion because it doesn't always go into as much detail. Sometimes it's just like a repeat of what's on the card with a few just little added notes. I would have really liked to have seen a bit more in the guidebook, and I say this as someone who is like adamantly stated how much I hate writing guidebooks. So like, no shade to the guidebook author, that stuff is really hard. But given that there is this huge body of work to be pulled from, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more in it, but I do absolutely adore this deck. It's a great one, I think, for like spooky season, but it also feels like a really great one for when I kind of want that blank slate energy because there's so much white space, and it does really kind of get down to like the metaphorical essence of the card. I feel like I go further beneath the sort of traditional RWS interpretations with a deck like this, which is really wonderful. And we have the Suit of Paws, which is cute. It's also been a really great one for writing as well. So then we have the little Mystic Misfits Oracle, and this one is just like, I think the aesthetic of it is super cute. I've again shown this one. There's just like titles on it, which isn't normally my jam with an Oracle deck, but I find that I can work with these with the title combined with the artwork. They're pretty intuitive keywords or titles on the deck, so it doesn't really throw me off too much. Let's take a look at them together, even though I am pretty sure I showed this in a playing with pairs, so I won't go into too much detail here, but like, I mean, I think aesthetically they're just kind of a match made in heaven. I love it. They're gorgeous decks. Like I said, the Poe Tarot is mass market, and the Mystic Misfits is an indie deck. So here we have the Sun between the Hermit and the King of Candles. Again, there's little quotes on the bottom of the Poe Tarot, which is amazing. There is a little like guidebook that comes with this. It's really cute. It's like spiral bound that comes with this deck, and it has some keywords on it, which is great. You can definitely tap into that. And I had intended to when I first started my work with it for the month, but I didn't end up actually needing to get into it. I just really focused in on like what this meant to me. like on a personal level. So what does fairy mean to me? And then combined with the Fool and the Ten of Quills. So yeah, just a beautiful little pairing. I really enjoyed working with them together. This again is another set of decks that I used all throughout the month. It definitely had that energy that I was looking for, and I really enjoyed spending my time with it. It got hot in here and I had to take off my flannel. So we have Ghost with the Page of Quills and the King of Quills. I mean, is this a perfect one for October? Yes, absolutely. Should I have waited? Maybe, but I have other plans for October. So I wanted to go ahead and use this one because it was so beautiful, and I really wanted to dive into it, as well as like I was really working on a lot of fiction stuff throughout the month of September as well. Well, at least the beginning part of September, because then toward the end I got sick, but these were perfect for that as well, because they kind of have an energy that is sort of in alignment with the fiction book I'm writing. The fiction book I'm writing is like sci-fi with a very heavy romance element to it. There's probably like a name for that. But so it doesn't really go into like the sort of dark spooky gothic, but there is like a magical element to my story, so this kind of worked in that way as well. And it's a little bit like rebellious too, which I really love. So that was a beautiful one to work with. Okay, I just have to tell you, like, this box also really annoys me. If you are not careful, stuff gets stuck down in here all the time. I didn't really mention the book. I mean, I mentioned the book, but I didn't really show you the book for the Poe Tarot. So, and some of them we have insights, and I wish every card had that, because not every card does. We do have keywords upright and reversed for every card, but you can see here, like this one just has the quote that's on the card, the upright and reversed keywords. So I do really wish every card would have had those insights, because I did find those insights to be really interesting, and they helped me to dive into the card a lot more. Several of them do have it, but then several of them don't, and I couldn't really find any sort of rhyme or reason to that. But other than that, like, it's a great little guidebook. I just wish those insights would have been included throughout the book, but this box annoys me. My cards get stuck in here all the time, even with the ribbon thing. So again, I'm gonna trim it and make a bag for it probably. Although, like, I love the box on the outside. It's been sitting up on my shelf with this, and like, they're just, you know, aesthetically they just look so beautiful together. So I don't know, maybe once the cards are trimmed they'll fit in there a little bit better and they won't get stuck. But like, just so you know, be careful, because my cards get stuck in the box, and I have like about bent several of them trying to get them out. So the next week was our blank canvas week, and this was where we worked on like building pictures, building story, building energies, building connections through imagery. And so the decks that I chose for this were the Quintessential Thoth Tarot and my own Sacred Threads Oracle. There's been some issue with Make Plain cards and the box. Some people might be getting a different box. Please note that the cards are correct. I've double checked and double checked. We had to take it down for a while. I don't know if it will be back up by the time that this video comes out or not, but if you are looking for the large size and you're not finding it, just give me, you know, a couple days and check back, because we're trying to work through the box issue. Currently the smaller version is fine and available, but if you have a box that looks a little bit different than this one, it's okay. The cards are still the same. It's the same deck. It's just the box file got mixed up. So that's that little side tangent. Let's talk about the Quintessential Thoth. I talked about this little pairing when I got my Sacred Threads Oracle, and how this was kind of like the main deck that I've been pairing with. This is a Thoth-based deck created by Lennon Smith. She has a channel here on YouTube as well. I will link her video talking about this deck, because it's just kind of amazing. I really didn't think I was into abstract decks until I got this deck in my hand. And ever since I've had this deck in my hand, like, it's kind of been paired pretty closely with the Sacred Threads Oracle. I did use this deck, like, I use this deck all the time, right? I made it, so it always feels weird talking about a deck you made. It's like, it's my favorite. Of course it's my favorite. I made it. It has all my favorite things in it. But I used this for my daily card pulls, for my energy, and the messages that I got were so like in alignment with what was going on. And it was just so funny, because the picture that it created for me just accurately represented what I was experiencing and feeling that particular week. But yeah, I mean, I have a whole video on this deck. I love it. It's obviously, like I made it. Let's talk about these two paired together, because I have worked with these two decks paired together pretty much ever since I like got them both in. I've used them for a lot of different types of readings. They work beautifully together. There's something about the abstract nature paired with the really kind of like honed in ideas that I have. It's really weird because this deck like represents really honed in ideas, but then it's also like really, really big energy. Somewhere in like all the marketing stuff, I talk about it being like from the above to the below. Like it goes really, really big, but then it comes down really, really small. So you have like the single sprout, and then you have the cosmos and everything in between. And it's just like, I will stop babbling and flip through cards so you can see them paired together. And I love how the abstract nature of this particular Thoth deck just kind of takes that sort of simple but not simple idea and like amplifies it to this amazing level. Again, here I am trying to like articulate something that I'm like, that I feel with this experience, right? It's just like the way that the messages come through these two decks together is just, it's really, really amazing. I find this to be, this particular pairing to be when I want to get like above, like it is like I want to transcend the everyday. And this is the pairing that I go to, because there's something about this particular pairing. And when I pair the Sacred Threads with other decks, I don't get this experience, right? It depends on the deck that I pair it with. Because I have designed this particular deck to represent all these different aspects of my practice and of, you know, all the different elements of the life and cosmos, and like from the magical and the mundane, like it incorporates both. And when I pair it with the quintessential Thoth, it elevates it to that deep, like spiritual, like almost intangible level. And when I pair it with something that's much more grounded and earthy, like it brings it back down. So it's really cool. I love this one for kind of like getting that really big picture, energetic sort of energy of a situation. It works really well for that. So here we have support with the Princess of Discs and the Queen of Swords. I mean, I've talked about this pairing before, so I won't go into too much detail, I guess, because like I could go on and on about it, and I like worked with other decks, so we're not gonna just like hone in on this one particular pairing, but it's kind of amazing and I kind of love it. I do use these decks together a lot, but I also am, you know, working with my Oracle deck, you know, all the time. Like, yeah, I have been for months. So yeah, it's an amazing pairing, but there's just something that really takes these two decks together, really take it and elevates it to that like much higher, like it's almost like it elevates it to like another plane of existence in my experience. And that's just really, really cool. So our last week in the monthly medicine was the blank screen week. And this was kind of about like where our potential lies. I ended up going kind of dark, and it wasn't necessarily intentional, but that's just kind of what happened. I got the Death Doula in, and I really wanted to work with it. I did not intend to work with it with the Somnia Tarot for this particular week. I actually had a different deck in mind, but this is what ended up happening because that was the energy that I felt that I needed. I don't know why sometimes I show the boxes and sometimes I don't. My apologies. Again, my brain's not 100% functioning. Let's talk about the Somnia Tarot really quickly because I have mentioned this deck many times on my channel. I adore this deck. It's a photography deck. I know there's an illustrated one out there now. I have been tempted many times to pick it up because it has a totally different energy from what I've seen on camera, and from what I've heard from people who have it. It also reads differently, but there's just something about this particular deck with this photography and the way that it's like created. I don't know, there's just something really special about this. So I didn't end up getting the illustrated one just because I felt like I wanted to keep this particular deck as something special. I adore this deck. It definitely calls me out on all of my crap. It's a gorgeous reader. I use it a lot with my Black Madonna, Mysteries of the Black Madonna Tarot, and where I'm using that more as an oracle. But I'm also finding lots of other decks that this deck pairs really well with. There's just, I don't know, there's something really haunting and beautiful and deep, and it just, like, this deck gets beneath the skin in a way that I find actually really helpful and oddly empowering. It's not like a dark, creepy deck to me. It doesn't feel like it feels like it dips into that shadow energy, but it does so in a way that like I feel empowered by it. I don't really know how to explain it other than just to say that. Same experience with this one, the Death Duel. I went back and forth about this one. These are both indie decks. This one is gold gilded, and I went back and forth about this one about whether or not like I wanted to get it because I wasn't like, I don't know, I just wasn't sure, right? It is a photography deck, and I have quite a few collage decks, but I don't have a ton of just straight up photography decks, and I really enjoy those. I did mention, again, it's another one that I showed with my members in Coffee and Cards when I first got it. We talked about it a little bit there. I did mention that I didn't know if there was some sort of manipulation that had happened digitally, and one of my members pointed out that they thought it was a, I think she said an exposure thing, or like merging two pictures together. I'm not a photographer, so I don't know what the technical term for that is, but like when you overlay one photo over another, and I'm assuming like not in a Photoshop sense, right? Because that's a lot of how collage is made. But there's just something about this deck. Like, again, it is an experiential deck. So me trying to explain that, I love the keywords. I love the imagery. It's beautiful. It has really, really deep messages. I used this one for my daily card pulls for that week, as well as for readings with the Somnia Tarot. I love this one, Techno Cleanse. Let's look at them together. Again, being that they're both photography decks, being that they both have the white borders, they so succinctly work together. But also the messages that come through are so on point. The Death Doula really like got down to the heart. It does so in a way like I was talking about with the Somnia Tarot, where it like gets under the skin. This does that too. Again, not in a disruptive or super uncomfortable way, but in a way that I found actually really empowering, even more so than the Somnia Tarot. But like I think paired with the Somnia Tarot, it like really elevated that, yeah, let's get beneath the surface, let's dig into those places beneath the skin, but like let's do so in a way that is really empowering and supportive. And I kind of hesitate to use that word supportive, because we tend to use that in relation with like hug decks and things like that, right? It's really supportive and nurturing and loving. This deck is supportive without being overly sentimental about it. And like, I really kind of appreciate that, because I'm not like a super sentimental person overall. It's probably like a terrible thing to say, but like I often like joke with friends, my squishy side is not on the surface most of the time. I did work very heavily with the guidebook. The messages in the guidebook are beautiful. I really love that. But there's just something about these two decks together. I feel like I say that and I sound like a broken record, but like that's kind of the whole point for me of pairing decks, is to find decks that have this beautiful conversation together. And then so I end up saying like repeatedly like a broken record, there's just something about these decks. The something about these decks is that they get beneath the surface of things. They show me what's going on a deeper, personal, almost more emotional level, like beneath everything else. And it does so in a way that is supportive, empowering, but not overly sentimental. And that's just an energy I really appreciate, and I really jive with, because it's like, okay, yeah, you've got things going on. Like, that's cool. We all do. Like, it doesn't have a whole lot of sympathy, because like everybody's got stuff going on, right? But this tells me that like there's stuff you can do about it. And I don't know, I just really love that. Like remothering with the Hermit in the world. I mean, just amazing. I could go on and on about this pairing because it was amazing, and I will definitely be using it again. The new narratives with the Queen of Cups and the Ten of Swords. I mean, oh, beautiful. All right, let's do one more because I could just keep going. The Void with the Nine of Swords and the Tower. I mean, is that just not amazing? That amazes me. Let me just real quick show you the book for the Death Doula. There is a larger book for the Somnia Tarot, but I do not have it. This is really lovely. It just has the text is very, very small, and it's light gray, so I definitely have to use my glasses, but the messages are very short and succinct. I really enjoyed that because it gives me like just enough without feeling super overwhelming. We just have a few pages of those, and then in the back here we have rituals that relate to the cards. And different like activities and stuff like this. So this is one of those decks that you can kind of use as a jumping off point for additional like practices and work. I do know that like Death Doula is an actual like it's a practice. I believe it's a profession. There are people that are death doulas. I don't really know anything about that. I really wasn't taking this deck in that respect. I was kind of just taking it in the way that I felt the energies come through for me. I have heard some people say that there's a bit of a disconnect there for them, but because I really don't know anything about it, I didn't really work with it in that way. Ooh, I missed some of my Somnia cards. I didn't really work with it in that way, so it worked beautifully for me as, like I said, that practice of getting like to the internal, to the stuff that I needed to poke at, to get into, to dive into, to let go of beneath the skin, and it was just beautiful for that. Okay, so real quick, I just want to talk about a couple of other decks that I worked with throughout the month. Like, I grab decks all the time. It's not like I really keep a selection besides my monthly medicine decks. I don't really keep a selection of decks out for the month. I just have that like small curated collection that I use for the monthly practice, and then anything else is just pretty much fair game. So what I get into throughout the month really just depends on what I'm feeling in the day. But there were a couple of decks that were kind of like, I guess we'll say, standout. The Sovereign Oracle, I think I mentioned this deck last month too. Like, I haven't put this deck away. It lives on my desk, so I'll just mention it really quickly. It's these beautiful little cards that are perfect for like linking or joining your readings together, adding additional messages. We have one keyword and then 3 key phrases. There's so many different ways that you can work with this. It goes with so many of my decks. It just, like, it's been one I've used for writing. It's been one that I've used for readings. Like, again, it just, I cannot speak highly enough of it. It just lives on my desk and I just pull it for all kinds of things. So another deck that I've been playing with just to play with, just to, because I always have like one, I don't know, I guess like geeky deck that I'm like playing with in a month. This month it was the Steampunk Art Nouveau Tarot. Here's the beautiful backs. I still need to edge it. Again, I mentioned this, I think, oh my goodness. Well, I know I mentioned it in a Coffee and Cards, but I don't remember where else I mentioned it. I think I showed it at one point publicly on my channel as well, but I adore this deck. Oh yeah, because like I mentioned, this is like, okay, yeah, it's a Frida card. But like, it made me think of Frida Fresh Cut Grass. Like, if you're a Critical Role fan, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. This deck feels like Critical Role to me, and that's just the only way that I really see it now. I shouldn't say the only way, because that's not true. But I love the kind of D&D steampunk vibe of this, and I've had so much fun playing with it over the last month. I will probably continue to play with it. I've done fun readings with it. I've done serious readings with it. Like, it really just spans the gambit for me. It's kind of more of like, it's a mood thing, really. When I'm feeling in this mood, this is just like such a beautiful deck to work with and read with. I'll definitely be continuing to get into it and work with it. I'm so glad I got it, because I think I mentioned in another video, like, I didn't get it because I was like, I have a steampunk deck and I love my steampunk deck, right? The Steampunk Tarot that I've had like forever. But this one has a totally different energy and a totally different vibe. That one feels like traditional Victorian steampunk, and this one feels like D&D steampunk, and I just like adore that about it. I kind of have one of these. There's always like kind of on the grab and go. Like, this was the one that was on my desk this month, so this was the one that I worked with. I also did some work with it with my fiction writing, which was really fun, and it worked really well for that too. So like, it's just a really fun one. I've really been enjoying getting to know it, and it's beautiful, but I do need to edge it and make a bag for it. So the last little oracle deck that I want to mention is this Unshakable Inner Peace oracle cards. I've seen this deck around. I saw it first on Thea's channel, Garden Goddess Tarot, and she didn't even like mention it. Like she didn't like show cards. I think she was doing like one of her beautiful little cozy vlog style videos where she was like showing her space, and here's the backs. And she just like picked up the box and showed it, and whatever it was that she said about it, because it was like 2 seconds on the screen, whatever it was that she said about it just clicked something in my brain. Sorry, they are very glossy, and I was like, I need that deck. So I bought it. It is a mass market deck, and the artwork is sometimes hit or miss for me, I'll be honest. Like, again, I'm a graphic designer. I'm coming from that background, so I'm really, really critical about that kind of stuff. Like, sadly so, like, I need to just not, but it happens. Overall, it's beautiful if I don't get too nitpicky, right? But what I love about this deck is I love the key phrases, and then there are questions. So like, this one is, this is not your practice life. Decide. What's your inner voice telling you about the dream in your heart? What is has no being on what will be. What does your life look and feel like? I mean, there's just something about the messages. Again, the artwork is hit or miss for me. Some of it's really beautiful and I love, like this one, it's gorgeous. And like some of them, I'm just like, again, that's a very, very me thing. It kind of reminds me of that like sort of Danielle Noel-esque sort of energy, which I really like. But it has that sort of darker color palette, which is actually my preference. I'm not really into the pinky purples. They're really pastel colors. That's just really not my jam, even though I have all of those decks, right? This little bit darker, a little bit more higher contrast is more my aesthetic. If we're not going to go with the black, green, and gray, because that really is my aesthetic, right? I'm very plain in that way. Anyway, like I love the messages. The guidebook is really great too. So I've been playing with this one again for those mornings where I'm doing that like digital detox thing where I'm pulling a card and I sit with the message and I just think about the question. I have done a few tarot readings around it as well. I use the the Moonchild Tarot Moon Shadow Edition. I cannot get my words out today, y'all. I apologize. I use the Shadow Edition for that, and like it actually works really well. So I would pull one of these cards, ask myself the question, and then pull a 3-card reading underneath of it. And it works really beautifully for that. So I pretty much flip through the whole deck, but it's gorgeous. I really love working with it. It's one that's kind of surprised me because I was like, it was such an impulse thing. There was something about the way that Thea mentioned this deck that I was just like, something clicked inside me and I was just like, I need to have it. So I did. Before I completely lose my voice altogether, let's do a quick flip through of my tarot journals. Again, as I mentioned in September, we were doing blank spaces in my membership. This is where I like provide a guided tarot practice that we all do together. It's very open, it's very fluid, but it does kind of give a little bit of a structure for those who enjoy structure. We also have a theme every single month. So September was blank spaces. Here's my title page with the decks that I worked with. And then I'll just show you my 4 pages because I tried to keep things a little bit more simple this month because again, blank space, kind of getting down into that. Like, I guess I had a whole sort of detox month of September now that I'm thinking about it because I did the digital detox every morning as well, which I am going to be continuing into October because I found that to be really, really refreshing and it really helped get me kind of like started off on the right foot every morning, except for like the mornings when I was sick. Anyway, I tried to keep things really simple. I think I ended up like photocopying 1 card for each week. And then I have my daily card pulls here. And the other thing that I did, because we were working on building messages, except for I did it in the first week and we weren't supposed to be building messages. We were supposed to be letting them go. But I did include the kind of key phrases from each of the cards down here, because otherwise I don't know what some of these things are. So even though we weren't supposed to be holding on to the messages from that week, I did go ahead and record them here. And you can see I just had kind of like, you'll see this theme actually represented through all of my journals for the month because I went with this black, white, gray, very like neutral theme throughout everything. So there were my cards. Here was my medicine reading. Again, you can see I have no pictures. It's just the text and my reading. So that was the slate with what am I ready to create. So the next week was our blank page. So how can I write my intentions into my story? This particular one, this reading and this journal page I did do on camera for my members. So I have my 5 archetypes, and again I wrote down some just key phrases, and this kind of makes like almost like a poem every week, which is really cool. I have my medicine reading. I did a little reflection on this one, and because this one was about intention, I created a little pocket and I wrote my intention down on here and put it in that little pocket. Then we had the blank canvas for the next week with what am I ready to share. And again, I had my cards for the week. Then again, I was using the Sacred Threads Oracle for this. Pulled some of my own keywords out of my little guidebook that's on Amazon. And then I have my medicine reading, which was so funny because my card was what am I ready to share? And I got the illusion card. So that was kind of funny diving into that. And then we have the final week, which was the blank screen, which is what is waiting to be revealed. Again, I was pulling from the Death Doula, pulled those keywords, was definitely getting my message of like, whoa, dude, like slow down. Because I was actually very sick this week. So a lot of my cards that I did, not only for monthly medicine, but just like pulls that I did throughout the week were like, you just need to stop. Like you need to stop and you need to rest and you need to get well. Because just this kind of trying to plow forward is not getting me anywhere. So I did finally toward the end of the week, like start to listen and was like, okay, fine. And then I watched a lot of like TV. And sometimes I talk about what I'm watching. I kind of forgot this month, but like I've just been doing a rewatch of Farscape. That's my current rewatch, as well as watching and doing a thing with Marlena with Star Trek. And I don't know if she wants to talk about that yet, so I won't go into too much detail. But anyway, so that was my monthly medicine. And then for the month of October, we are doing a ghost story, which is a narrative journey. So it's a narrative-based practice where I wrote well, here's my table of contents, and I'll just show you what I started so you can see it. I wrote a little story, and then we incorporate our card draws and our weekly themes each month into the story. So I'm really, really looking forward to jumping into this because this one's going to be so much fun. Okay, and just really quickly, we're going to look at my sacred readings journal because my watch is getting mad at me because it's telling me that like I'm need to go rest. That's what it's telling me. So here is my sacred readings that I did for September, and you'll see that I really scaled back on this too. I do not do a month ahead in a traditional sense. I don't do predictive in that way. I do an energetic reading. It's generally this setup where it's one oracle card and 2 tarot to give me my message. I pulled the black cat card, which was kind of funny because in the animal gnosis, cat was our animal. So I'll talk about that when we get there. But I just like to kind of set up my month with a sort of energetic resonance to carry me through the month. Sometimes it's things I am working on. Sometimes it's things I need to work on. Just it depends on what I'm feeling in the moment. And I love this one that I pulled this little message from the black cat. It says there's a curious journey into the depths of the unknown. That was perfect for September. That like energy ended up coming through everything that I did, which was wonderful. And I just wrote here my kind of idea for September was setting intentions, and I just didn't make it my way because like, again, I'm a nerd, critical role reference, but like we say making my way all the time. So I put that in there. Okay, so then I did my channeled reading, which I do every single month, like looking at like what energies do I need to channel down into me from source, cosmos, deity, whatever it may be. And you can see that I used all my wild unknown decks. They work really well for that. This one was kind of fun because I have one reading here that's written in black, and in between that I have another reading that's written in gray. So it's 2 readings melded together into one. I know I shouldn't say 2 readings because it's 1 reading, 2 messages written in one. So it's interesting when you read them together because it creates one message, but then when you read them individually, like all the black ones and then all the gray ones, there's like 3 messages in here. It was just kind of a fun, cool thing to do. Here's the animal gnosis, and this is a practice that's provided by Tegan at Cosmic Creeper. She has a Patreon. I'm in her Patreon, and I tried to get to her animal gnosis every single month. We had Cat for our gnosis, and you can see that I used the Poe Tarot for this particular reading because she had a curiosity reading. This reading, y'all, went so dark for me. It was so interesting, so dark. Then I did my new moon in Virgo reading. I used my Black Madonna. I swapped those out, Black Madonna, Mysteries of Mary, at the new and full moon. Sometimes I put my cards in here, sometimes I don't, but I do swap them out every switch of the moon cycle. And then I use the Ritual Tarot for my actual reading. And you'll see here, this is when I started getting sick. So my full moon reading is just my 1 card, and I didn't do anything decorative, and I just wrote. And that's the last thing I have in here because like then I was super sick and I did not get into any bigger readings. That was a look at all of the decks and all the practices that I got into throughout the month of September. It was pretty minimal month for me, like in a general sense. And that's really because I was working on other things, as well as like I got super sick through the latter half of September and didn't end up doing much of anything besides watching some Farscape. Anyway, as always, you'll find links for everything I've shown here in the description box of this video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope that you had a wonderful September, and I wish you many blessings moving into October.